So today I'm sharing with you one of my favorite stories and lessons from the Gospel of Mark in the chapter 11, verses 12 through 21. And in this message, just before we see Jesus make his triumphant entrance into Jerusalem, and it breaks dawn and Jesus is tired, so he goes back to Bethany with his disciples. And then we pick up right when he wakes up and they're on their way back to Jerusalem. So they're leaving Bethany, and on their way to Jerusalem they get this unique and amazing foreshadowing from Jesus himself about his people and their commitment and true love to him. So we start off in chapter 11 verse 12. The next morning, as they were leaving Bethany, Jesus was hungry. He noticed a fig tree in full leaf a little way off, so he went over to see if he could find any figs. But there were only leaves, because it was too early in the season for fruit. Then Jesus said to the tree, "May no one ever eat your fruit again." And the disciples heard him say it. When they had arrived back in Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple and began to drive out the people buying and selling animals for sacrifices. He knocked over the tables of the money changers and the chairs of those selling doves. He stopped everyone from using the temple as a marketplace. He said to them, "The scriptures declare my temple will be called a house of prayer for all nations, but you have turned it into a den of thieves." When the leading priests and the teachers of religious law heard what Jesus had done, they began planning on how to kill him. But they were afraid of him because the people were so amazed at his teaching. And that evening, Jesus and the disciples left the city. And the next morning, as they passed by the fig tree he had cursed, the disciples noticed it had withered from the roots up. Peter remembered what Jesus had said to the tree on the previous day and exclaimed, "Look, Rabbi, the fig tree you cursed has withered and died." You see, the fig tree actually relates to the episode in the temple in such an amazing way. You see, this fig tree on the way to Jerusalem looks so good and so promising of very good fruit. Well, in the same way, so did the temple and the nation of Israel look promising and declared to be promising of good fruit. On the surface, the fig tree, which was in that first episode, and the people of Israel, which was in that second half of the episode, looked very fruitful in the presence, but neither of them had offered any pleasing fruit to Jesus. You see, likewise, just as Jesus had cursed the fig tree for not bearing any good fruit as it's supposed to, he also cursed the people of Israel in the temple because they were not doing God's work by bearing fruit in his temple. Instead, they were too busy making the money and making the temple like a marketplace for their own gain and not for God's gain in his kingdom. And that was not pleasing to Jesus, who had a close love and relationship with God the Father. You see, Jesus curses the people of Israel in the temple for not being true at heart and for not being faithful to God's work. Thank you.